welcome to the Hail Trace Hail Forecast. This is Derek Klein bringing you a forecast for today. And actually, we're going to take a look a little bit further down the road than today. It's been fairly slow across the United States. I'm sure you've noticed that. If you're like us, you get a little bit antsy when it stops hailing, especially in October, because it could be winter very soon. So let's take a look forward and see if the potential for hail is actually going to show up again, or if the severe weather season is going to hibernate for the winter and we're going to have to be waiting for February and March. So let's go ahead and take a look at what some of the things that we're going to take a look at. And so basically the first thing that I always take a look at when I'm making a forecast is the amount of moisture that's in the air. So what we want to see is these blues. These are high moisture content. So notice we have a little bit in Oklahoma. We also have a lot down in the Gulf of Mexico. The one thing that we'll watch for winter is when the Gulf of Mexico gets swept. So this moisture actually gets pushed well to the south of Florida, and that's when severe weather season pretty much ceases, as moisture can't get back up into the United States. But as long as it's hanging out right here at the Gulf Coast, it's available for the for moisture to be sucked up into the plains and into the southeast and the east coast whenever whenever a storm system pops out. So that's what we're going to take a look at. We're going to hover over these different time frames with this model. We'll actually be able to kind of watch it as the moisture kind of sucks up and then gets pushed back down. So notice we have a little bit of moisture again in the plains the next couple of days. There could be a few severe thunderstorms, not expecting a whole lot. So I wouldn't really cross my fingers for much happening there. But we'll continue to watch as we go forward here into Sunday. Notice the moisture does begin to increase on Saturday across the plains, so dew points rising back into the 60s. So it'll be a little bit more humid, not crazy, but just a little bit more humid. Some of that goes away at night, which is common, but then we begin to see the moisture increase again as we go through Sunday, all the way up into Minnesota. Look at that, 60-degree dew points all the way up to Minneapolis. Probably not going to be any severe weather with that, but we will have some higher dew points up there Sunday night into Monday. And then notice they really crank up and really move up all the way up into Wisconsin, 60-degree dew points all the way up into that part of the country. We also have a lot of these red lines. This is what we call the lifted index. So this is telling us that we have some lift in the atmosphere. We got to have that to get those thunderstorms going. So that's one of the other key ingredients that we need. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is actually Monday afternoon, and this is something that would pique my interest if I were looking for the next hailstorm. So the next thing that I need to know is are we going to actually have temperatures warm enough to support hail? So we're going to skip past a lot of these days here. We'll look at Sunday. So this is Sunday afternoon. I noticed fairly warm all the way up to Minneapolis. Temperatures, making a run at 80 degrees. Definitely in the 70s in Minneapolis. We'll be in the 80s in parts of Iowa and southern Minnesota. So very warm. And that'll continue. Notice how warm it gets. Now remember, we had all those lifted indexes down here in Oklahoma. And I notice it's very warm. So temperatures are going to be, 80 to 85 degrees. Possibly pushing 90 degrees back here in southwest Oklahoma. So it's going to be extremely warm. We're going to have some moisture. So it's going to create some instability in the atmosphere. So all of a sudden now we're getting some of the key ingredients that are going to be a potential for hail. Notice that we have a cold front that's pushing. It runs from Wisconsin all the way into Kansas. And then we also have this westerly wind, which is a dry line that'll be in western Oklahoma. So that'll be kind of our battleground, if you will, of where that potential will be. So next thing that we need to find out is are we going to have any wind shear at all? Is there an actual storm system to come out to give the atmosphere that extra push? And what we want to look for is a dip. So see how the winds are coming out of Canada all the way down to really Georgia, and then they lift back to the north across Massachusetts and up the east coast. If we actually track this, notice this storm system on the east coast will actually kind of cut off. Looks like a bowling ball. That's actually a nor'easter that's going to develop later this week. So lots of wind and rain on the east coast with that. But as we notice, here comes the storm system out here in California now. So this is on Sunday morning, and it's going to swing all the way out into the plains by the time we get to Sunday afternoon. And so notice it's right out here in Oklahoma in the Texas Panhandle. So kicking out across those boundaries that we were just talking about with all that instability. And that's going to be the trigger that we need to kick those thunderstorms off. And so currently with the models, timing is great. Everything looks good for the potential for some hail. The instability is probably a little bit lower but it is October, so we can't get all of it. But it looks like a pretty decent setup for the potential for some severe weather on Monday. So that's going to be our next potential for hail. We'll continue to monitor that as we go through the rest of this week and into the weekend, and hopefully we'll be pushing out some pretty good storm systems, and maybe this pattern will continue. So if you've got any questions, or if there's anything that we can do for you, we're here. It's 855-334-4245. Love to chat with you. Hope you have a great day, and hope you enjoyed the hail forecast for today.